So let us consider the first case. If the concentration of the reactant is very high, what happens if the concentration of the reactant is very high? Okay, let us diagrammatically try to understand. So you have a reaction vessel, okay, where you have large concentration of A. So the molecules are very close to each other, okay, and in between you have some energized molecules also, okay. In between you have some energized molecule. Now, since these molecules are very close to each other, that is when the concentration is very high, you can clearly see from this picture that there is a greater probability that these energized molecule may again collide with a less energized molecule or a normal molecule and lose its energy. So rather than undergoing the chemical reaction, the energized molecule getting de-energized is more probable. So what does it mean? The reverse of the first step, that is the de-energization reaction, will be much faster than the reaction is given in the second step. This happens when the concentration of the reactant is very high. So the rate of the backward or the reverse step, that is the rate constant k minus 1, will be much greater than K2 when the concentration of very high. I repeat, when the concentration of is very high, the molecules are very close to each other. Therefore, there is a greater chance that the energized molecule may lose its energy by collision rather than undergoing the chemical reaction. So in such case, the rate of formation of the product, that is the rate of the second step, will be much lesser than the rate of the reverse step 1, okay, that is rate of de-energization. So rate of formation of product is much less than rate of de-energization. So which is the slowest step? This is the slowest step. The de-energization step is very fast, so the second step will be the slowest step. So in such case, the second step will be the rate determining step. So in this case, the formation of product, that is step 2, is the rate determining step. And in this rate determining step, you have only one molecule of A, okay. So when I am counting A, both energized and normal molecules are the same, because the source for both A and A star are same. So since there is only one molecule of A involved in this reaction, so what you should predict is it should be a first order reaction, because for the overall reaction the second step is now the rate determining step, and since only one molecule of A is involved here, you should predict that it should be a first order reaction. Is it so? Let us see mathematically. So since k minus 1 is much greater than k2, and already we have set that concentration of A is very high, so here k minus 1 into A is much greater than k2. Already k minus 1 is much greater than k2, that I have written here. So I am multiplying it by further a big number. This is already a big number compared to k2, and I am multiplying this big number by another big number, that is concentration of A, because it is very high. So k minus 1 into A is much greater than k2. So if you look at the denominator of this general equation for rate, you have in the denominator k minus 1 into A plus k2. But since k minus 1 into A is much greater than k2, one can neglect this second term k2. So in such case, therefore, you can write rate is equal to k1 into k2 into A square divided by k minus 1 into A. Okay, so one of the A term gets cancelled. You get k1 into k2 divided by k minus 1 into A, which is nothing but a first order reaction. This is what I said here, because the second step is the rate determining step, it is the first order reaction. So the reaction follows a first order kinetics when the concentration of the reactant is very high. Now let us consider the second case. What happens if the concentration is A is very low? Okay. The second case, if concentration of A is very less. Okay. So diagrammatically, it is something like this. So since the concentration of A is very less, the molecules are much farther from each other. So the chances that this energized molecule may lose its energy, okay, due to collision is very less, and therefore the rate of the second reaction will be very large, because the probability of this molecule getting de-energized is very less. So in most of the case, A star will be converted to product. So in such case, the rate of formation of the product, that is the rate of the second step, is much faster than the de-energization step, that is the rate of the reverse step. So in this case, rate of formation of product is much greater than rate of de-energization. So the reverse step is much slower than the second step. So which is the rate determining step now? The rate determining step is step -1. Okay, I will say -1 representing the reverse of the first step. So the step -1 is the rate determining step. And if you look at this reversible step, sorry, the reverse or the backward step, since there are two molecules of A involved, the reaction should be a second order reaction. Does it truly follow second order kinetics? Let us see mathematically. So here this changes now. Okay, here K2, the rate constant of the second step, is now much larger compared to K-1, because this K-1 responds or corresponds to the rate of the backward step. K2 responds to the rate of the uh, product formation step. So here K2 is much greater than K-1. So already K-1 is a much lesser number compared to K2. Now if I multiply, okay, already I am having K2 much greater than K-1. This is a very small number. Now see, if this small number is multiplied by another small number, that is A, okay, because here concentration of A is much less. Okay, in such case K2 will be much greater than K-1 into A. So in that case, what happens to this equation 3? The equation 3 now becomes rate is equal to K1 into K2 into A square divided by, now this term K-1 into A is much small compared to K2, so this is negligible, so you get divided by K2. So K2 gets cancelled. This is nothing but K1 into A square. Therefore, the reaction follows second order kinetics when the concentration is very less. So this is uh, closely correlating with the experimental observation. I already told you most of the unimolecular reactions proceeds either as a first ordered or second order kinetics depending on the concentration of the reactant. And here we see that how this concentration term is affecting the order of the reaction. At much higher concentration it is following a first order kinetics, and a much lower concentration it is following a second order kinetics. And what about the intermediate concentration? At the intermediate concentration the order is somewhere between 1 and 2. So there is some transition point. Okay, there is some concentration of A which can be considered as a transition point, where the order of the reaction is transitioning, it is changing either from first order to second order or from second order to first order. So there is a particular concentration of A which may be considered as a transition concentration, where there is a change in order observed. Okay, I will discuss about it later. So what at this stage we see that Lindemann's theory is successful in explaining the occurrence of first order and second order kinetics for a unimolecular reaction. Now let us try to test or prove this mechanism, okay, and see to what stage this mechanism explains the experimental observation. Okay, so this mechanism runs a long way, okay, in explaining or in proving the experimental results, but it uh, actually stumbles at a particular stage. So now actually we are testing the validity of Lindemann's reaction. Actually we are not just testing the validity, actually we are discussing the limitations of Lindemann reaction. So the next discussion is can be either called as testing the validity of Lindemann's theory or limitations of Lindemann's theory. Okay. Okay, let me write this. I require it again. Okay, so let us try and prove that Lindemann is right. Okay, to some extent we will be successful in proving it, but it will deviate from that after a while. Okay, according to Perrin, okay, who proposed a radiation hypothesis mechanism for unimolecular reaction, a unimolecular reaction should proceed in as a single ordered reaction. The order of a unimolecular reaction should be first order, that is according to Perrin. So how do you write in general a first order kinetics? So for a unimolecular reaction following first order kinetics, the rate of the reaction is, okay, how do you generally write a rate for a first order reaction? Rate is equal to rate constant into concentration to the power 1. So that is the way we write the rate for a first order reaction. So suppose if the unimolecular reaction followed a first ordered kinetics as proposed by Perrin, then you can write the rate of a unimolecular reaction as rate is equal to rate constant, which I take it as K1, okay, which 1 here representing first ordered rate constant. Okay, this is sometimes called as first ordered coefficient of rate or rate constant. Okay, first ordered into A. So this is what equation number, I think it is 6. Okay, this is what we expect the reaction to proceed according to Perrin's theory. Okay, so according to Perrin's theory, the unimolecular reaction should be following a very simple uh, kinetics given by this equation. Rate is equal to K1 into A, equation number 6. And what we want to prove this is that this equation is not correct. This is not consistent, and this is the correct way of expressing the rate of a unimolecular reaction. Okay, now how we will proceed in proving that this is the correct form of equation is, now if you see here, K represents a rate constant, and generally what is the characteristic of a rate constant? Rate constant is always a constant. It does not vary with the concentration of the reactant. So when you are varying the concentration of the reactant, rate constant remains constant. And if the rate constant varies with the concentration, what does it actually mean is that is not rate constant at all. Okay, a rate constant should always remain constant as you vary the concentration. If it does not remain constant, it means it is not the rate constant. So here, if this equation is correct, change in the concentration of A should not affect the first order rate constant. If it remains constant with respect to concentration, it means the reaction actually follows first order kinetics. But if this K1 value, okay, varies with the concentration. What does it mean? This K1 is not actually a rate constant, okay, and K1 represents a first order rate constant. Therefore, if it is not a rate constant, it means that the reaction should not be a first order reaction. So what we will do is we will compare equation 3 and equation 6. Okay, comparing equation 3 and equation 6. This equation 3 is due to Lindemann, equation 6 is due to Perrin, according to which this is a first order rate constant, which is a constant according to him. So let us compare. You get K1 into K2 into A square divided by K minus 1 into A plus K2 is equal to K1 into A. So if I cancel one of the A terms, I guess this is required, I think. So let me edit in this right here. So if we cancel, we get an expression for K1. K1 is equal to K1 into K2 into A divided by K minus 1 into A plus K2, equation 7. So you can clearly see that this K1, a first ordered rate constant or rate coefficient, in fact depends on concentration of A. This is the argument by Lindemann, that K1 depends on A. But according to Perrin, this equation does not exist at all. K1 is a constant. But according to Lindemann, this cannot be a constant because it depends on concentration. So this is not a constant. Therefore, the reaction should not be a first order reaction. So what we will do is we will rearrange this equation in another form. What I will do is I will divide this entire equation by A. Okay, I will divide this entire equation by A, and also I will divide the entire equation by K minus 1. Okay, I am dividing the entire equation by A as well as I am dividing this equation by K minus 1. So dividing both numerator and denominator by concentration of A as well as K minus 1, we get K1 is equal to, therefore, K1 by K2 divided by K minus 1. Because numerator I have divided by A, so A gets cancelled, and I am dividing by K minus 1. So it takes the form K1 into K2 divided by K minus 1 divided by, in the first term, okay, I am dividing the denominator also by A, so A gets cancelled. Also I am dividing it by K minus 1, so K minus 1 gets cancelled. So the first term is 1 plus the second term K2, you are dividing the denominator by K minus 1 as well as A. So equation 7 and equation 8 are equivalent. So what I have done is I have divided both numerator and denominator of equation 7 by the terms concentration of A and K minus 1. Actually, this equation represents a hyperbola. Therefore, if I plot K1 versus concentration of A, it should be a hyperbola, and it is indeed a hyperbola. So what does it indicate is the argument made by Lindemann is correct. Okay, argument made by Lindemann is correct. So equation 8 represents a hyperbola. What does it mean? It means that if I plot a graph of K minus 1 versus A, I should get a hyperbola like this. Okay, this is according to Lindemann. This is according to Lindemann. One should expect such type of behavior if you are plotting a graph of K1 versus A. What is the prediction by Perrin, according to Perrin, this K1 represents the first order rate constant. It means it should not vary with the concentration. So in such case, the graph should be a horizontal line. Whatever is the concentration of the reactant, its value is a constant. Okay, it means it is a rate constant. But what experimentally is observed is, okay, this is the Perrin way of argument. What is experimentally observed is this behavior. So K1 actually varies with A. So this cannot represent a first ordered rate constant because it is not at all a constant throughout the uh, throughout various concentration. So this is not a first order rate constant. It means it cannot be a first order reaction. So this is ruled out. This is the correct picture. So what Lindemann suggested is correct. So we can rule out the Perrin's radiation hypothesis. So what we observe here is at very low concentration of A, okay, the value of K1 constantly increases. So it is not a constant, it constantly increases. So this cannot represent a first ordered region. Why? Because K1 is not a constant. But as the value of A increases sufficiently high, it reaches a saturated value, okay, a maximum value and saturated value. So in this region we can see that the value of K1 is almost a constant. So at very high concentration, K1 appears as a constant. Therefore, this K1 can be treated as a rate constant. In fact, it is a first order rate constant only at very high concentration. But at very low concentration, it is not a constant. Therefore, it means in this region, the reaction is not following a first order kinetics, and it does follow a first order kinetics at very high concentration. So in this region, the reaction is actually first ordered because of this constant value of K1, whereas here it is second ordered, whereas in between it is somewhere between first order and second order. So only at higher concentration this K1 has constant value. So therefore only at higher concentration the reaction is becoming or behaving like a first order reaction. At much lower concentration of A, it is not behaving as a first order reaction. At very low concentration it is almost a second order, but at intermediate concentration the order is somewhere between first order and second order, and there is some concentration of A which is acting as a point of transition where first order is becoming second order or second order is becoming a first order kinetics. And this maximum value of K1 is taken as K infinity, and this value of K infinity can be found out by experiment. Okay, if you plot experimentally this graph, okay, and find out the maximum value of K1, this extended line, this is nothing but K infinity. Okay, now let us consider a point where this first order reaction is either converted into second order reaction, or a second order reaction is converted into a first order reaction. So for a first ordered reaction, I already discussed it in the previous video. For a first order reaction, this is the rate determining step. It means K2 into A star is much less than K minus 1 into A star into A. So the rate of de-energization of the molecule A star is much greater than the rate of the second step, and this results in first order reaction. For a second ordered reaction, which is the rate determining step, the reverse step is the rate determining step. So K minus 1 into A star, so K2 into A star is much greater than K minus 1 into A star into A. So in such case, the rate of de-energization is much less than rate of formation of product. Okay, so these two are the extreme condition. In one case, K2 into A star is much greater than K minus 1 into A star into A, which represents first order kinetics. The other extreme case where K2 into A star is much greater than K minus 1 into A star into A, it is another extreme case where it follows a second order kinetics. So you have one extreme case where the reaction follows first order kinetics. You have another extreme case where the reaction is second order kinetics. So as I am varying the concentration from here to here, here it is first order. When I am moving here, there is a particular concentration of A where this first order becomes second order. Or if I am moving from this side, okay, where initially the reaction is second order, as I am moving towards first order, there is a particular concentration of A where there is a transition of the reaction from second order to first order. For first order, this rate is much less than this rate. For second order, this rate is much greater than this rate. So there is a particular point, like a neutralization point, where these two rates should become equal to each other, and that point represents the point where there is a transition of the reaction from first order to second order. So there is a point where K2 into A star becomes equal to K minus 1 into A star into A. So if the concentration of the reactant is very high, this becomes very large. If the concentration of the reactant is very less, this term becomes very small. But there is some balancing concentration where these two rates become equal, and that point represents a point of transition of the reaction from either first order to second order or second order to first order. So K2 into A star is equal to K minus 1 into A star into A, or K2 is equal to K minus 1 into A. K2 is equal to K minus 1 into A. Now, what does this indicate is what is the rate of the, and this particular concentration I will take it as A half. A half does not mean it is half of the concentration. A half is a point representing a transition point where this first order becomes second order or second order becomes first order. So A half, or you can also read it as A1 cross 2, where 1 becomes 2 or second order becomes first order. So it is a particular concentration where rate of both this de-energization and rate of formation of product becomes equal. So at this condition, what happens, let us see. Okay, so let me write rate of the reaction according to Lindemann. The rate of the reaction is, okay, I think it is equation number 3, Lindemann's equation. Yes, it is K1 into K2 into A square divided by K minus 1 into A plus K2. Okay, this is the expression for rate. Okay, so the rate of the reaction according to Lindemann is equation 3, or you can write the first order coefficient K1 is K1 into K2 divided by K minus 1 divided by 1 plus K2 divided by K minus 1 into A. Please refer equation 8. Okay, now if you see here, if A becomes infinity, that is the concentration of the reactant is very high, this term becomes 0. So in the denominator you have 1 plus 0, so this becomes 1. Okay, now let us look at the graph. When A becomes infinity, what does it mean? When A is very high, you see that this K1 reaches its maximum value of K infinity. So if A is very high, that is if I substitute A is equal to infinity, this value of K1 is nothing but it becomes equal to K infinity. So if concentration of A is very high, then this value reaches the maximum value, and from the graph we can see that the maximum value is K infinity. So if I substitute A as very high as infinite value. So this term becomes k infinity is equal to, as I already told you, this term is 1. So you get k1 into k2 divided by k minus 1. Okay, equation number 10. Equation number 10. Okay, so this I have taken as equation number 9. So what is equation number 10? Equation number 10 gives the maximum value of k1, which is k infinity. Its value is k1 into k2 divided by k minus 1. Okay, now let me rearrange equation 9. Okay, equation 9 is therefore concentration of A half is equal to k2 divided by k minus 1. Okay, A half is equal to k2 divided by k minus 1. What is this concentration A half? It represents a transition point where a first order becomes second order or second order becomes first order, and it is k2 divided by k minus 1. Here also I have k2 divided by k minus 1. So I can write substituting equation 11 in equation 10. Therefore k infinity is equal to k2 by k minus 1 is a half into k1, which implies a half is equal to k infinity divided by k1, where k infinity is the maximum value which can be obtained from the graph. It is experimentally obtainable value. k1 is the rate constant of the first step, forward step of the process. Okay, let me take it as equation number 12. Okay, now the rate of this reaction is given by equation 3, and you have a condition here. Okay, that k2 is equal to k minus 1 into a half. So if I substitute equation 9 in equation 3, what happens? Substituting equation 9 into equation 3 at a is equal to a half. What does it mean? When the concentration of the reactant has reached this particular concentration, which represents a transition point, then what happens to the rate? In that case, rate is equal to k1 into k2 into a square. Okay, it has reached its value a half, so a half square divided by k minus 1 into a half plus k2. What is k2? K2 is also k minus 1 into a half, which is equal to, okay, k minus 1 into k2 into a square half divided by 2 times k minus 1 into a half. Okay, if you cancel a half, what you get is rate is equal to k1 into k2 divided by 2 into k minus 1 into concentration of a half into concentration of a half. Okay, concentration of a half, or which is nothing but, what is k1 into k2 divided by k minus 1? K1 into k2 divided by k minus 1 is nothing but k infinity. So this is half of k infinity into a half, half into k infinity into a half. Now k infinity into a half represents the maximum rate of the reaction. Okay, it represents the maximum rate. Why it represents the maximum rate? Because we have substituted the maximum value of k1, which is k infinity. So this represents the maximum rate for a first order reaction. So this is half of the maximum rate. So what we have calculated, this rate is nothing but half of the maximum rate. Why it is the maximum rate? Because here k1 is having its highest value, k infinity. So this is the half of the maximum rate. So what is the significance of a half? So a half is a transition point where the value of k1 becomes half of k infinity. So what does it mean? K1 is equal to k infinity divided by 2. Here you have divided by 2. So this a half concentration is that concentration where the value of the first order coefficient k1 becomes half of k infinity. Okay, and it is also the point where a first order reaction may become second order or second order may become a first order. So let me diagrammatically represent it. So a half is a point where the value of k1 becomes half of k infinity. So here I have k infinity. So half of k infinity is somewhere here. This is half of k infinity, and the corresponding concentration, this concentration is nothing but a half. So what does this point now represent? This point represents a transition point. Above this point, the reaction is more of first order. Below this point, the reaction is more of second order. So at this point is a point of transition, and at this point the corresponding concentration is denoted as a half, and at this point the first order coefficient k1 is half of the maximum value k infinity, and this a half according to equation 12 is given by k infinity divided by k1. Okay, that is according to equation 12. So far so good. Okay, Lindemann's theory, first it disproves Perrin's theory. Okay, according to Perrin's theory, the reaction should have been a first ordered reaction. It means this graph should be an horizontal graph, that is k1 should have been independent of concentration, but from the diagram we see that k1 is dependent on concentration. Okay, the relation is actually hyperbolic in nature, and this is an experimentally obtained graph. Theoretically we get the same graph. Okay, so far Lindemann's theory is being supported by the experiment, or Lindemann's theory explains the experimental observation. Now let us try to find out the value of a half. Okay, theoretically as well as experimentally. So what is the value of a half predicted by Lindemann, and what is the experimentally observed value of a half? Okay, experimental value of a half can be observed from can be obtained from this graph. Okay, so this is an experimental curve where I could easily find out what is k infinity. K infinity is the maximum value. Okay, this horizontal value, maximum saturated value is k infinity. So if I take the half of that, that is k infinity by 2, and the concentration corresponding to k infinity by 2 is nothing but a half. So experimentally I can find out what is that transition point a half. Theoretically you can find out a half by this formula, k infinity divided by k1 k infinity divided by k1. What is observed is the value of a half theoretically predicted by Lindemann is much higher than the experimental value. Okay, so far I told you, so far so good. Lindemann's theory is consistent with the experimental results. Now we see the first inconsistency. The value of a half that was theoretically predicted by Lindemann was much higher than the experimental value. So where the actual error is, okay, a half is k infinity divided by k1. I already told you k infinity can be easily obtained by experiment. So where is the mistake? The mistake is in the theoretical prediction of k1. So the value of k1 predicted by Lindemann is much less than the value it should have. Okay, so if k1 had a much higher value than that was predicted by Lindemann, in that case a half would have been very small. But what happened is the theoretical prediction of the value of k1 by Lindemann was much less, and that resulted in a much higher theoretical value of a half than the experimental value. So this is one of the important limitation of Lindemann's theory, that the experimental value of a half is much less than that predicted theoretically by Lindemann. The second important limitation of this theory can be observed if we rearrange equation number 7. Okay, let me rewrite equation number 7. The equation number 7 is k1 is equal to k1 into k2 into a divided by k minus 1 into a plus k2. This is equation 7. So let us take the reciprocal of equation 7. Okay, the reciprocal of equation 7 is 1 by k1 is equal to k minus 1 into a plus k2 divided by k1 into k2 into a, which is, if we split the denominator, okay, it becomes k minus 1 divided by k1 into k2, a gets cancelled, plus the second term k2 gets cancelled, divided by 1 by k1 into a. Okay, but what is this term k minus 1 divided by k1 into k2? It is nothing but reciprocal of k infinity. K infinity is k1 into k2 divided by k minus 1. Here I am having the reciprocal of this. So this is nothing but 1 by k infinity. So I can rearrange this equation as, okay, so equation can be rewritten as, therefore 1 by k1 is equal to 1 by k infinity plus 1 by k1 into a. So this is a variable parameter now, which represents the first order coefficient, okay, which actually varies with concentration. So this is a variable. This is a constant because it represents the maximum value of k1. It is a constant. K1 represents the rate constant of the first step or the forward step. So it is also constant. This is a parameter. A is a parameter. It is a variable. Okay, I don't know what is this equation number. I'll simply give it a star. Okay, now this equation is of the form y is equal to c plus m into x. So if I plot a graph of 1 by k1 versus a, because these two are the parameters or the variables involved here, rest of the things are constants. So if I plot 1 by k1 versus 1 by a, not a, 1 by k1 versus 1 by a, we should expect a straight line according to Lindemann. The intercept of this line is 1 by infinity. The slope of this line should be 1 by k1. So this is the theoretical plot, the expected. But what is experimentally observed is like this. So at very low concentration, the straight line behavior is observed. Remember, here I have taken reciprocal of a. So low concentration means 1 by a is very high. So right side of x-axis represents low concentration, left side of x-axis represents high concentration. So this is high concentration because 1 by a is less. This represents low concentration, that is 1 by a is very high. So at very low concentration, the straight line behavior is observed, that is the theoretical and the experimental curves match with each other. But at high concentration, the plot deviates from its linear behavior. It deviates from the theoretical predicted value as well as it deviates from the linearity. Okay, so this is the experimental curve. So what does it indicate? That there is a deviation from the linearity at higher values of A. Okay, there is a deviation from linearity at higher values of A. At lower values of A, the experimental and the theoretical curve predicts the same, but at higher values of concentration of A, there is a deviation between the theoretically predicted values and the experimental values. So these are the two important limitations of Lindemann's theory. One, the value of A half predicted by Lindemann's theory is much higher than the experimental value, and there is a deviation from the linearity, expected linearity, in the plot of 1 by k1 versus 1 by A at higher concentration of A. So this theory, though has carries a success in explaining to a large extent the mechanism of unimolecular reaction, it has some limitations that we have observed here, and this theory is rather a very simple theory which was given by Lindemann. In the next class we will discuss the modification of this Lindemann's theory, because to overcome this limitation we have to make either propose a new theory or we have to modify the existing theory. Hinshelwood, he modified this existing theory. He made certain changes to the Lindemann's theory. Though he was successful in explaining and overcoming some of the limitations we had in Lindemann's theory, still it's not perfect. It also has certain limitation which will be overcome by other theories which we will not discuss here. So I will conclude here. In the next class we will discuss about another theory of unimolecular reaction, that is Hinshelwood's theory. Thank you.